What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and I have a DM's Guild product here to talk to you about today, and that is Drizzt's Travelogue of Everything Volume 1. Yes, that is Drizzt, as in the famous drow Drizzt Do'Urden. This released about a week ago at the point of me making this video here. And I do also want to say a thank you to Lucas and the entire team behind Drizzt's Travelogue of Everything for sponsoring this video. There is a lot to unpack here, including things from a brand new level 1 to 20 class, the Tactician, a ton of new subclasses for everything, including the Artificer, as well as a couple of Redux versions and updates to existing subclasses that might have needed a little bit of help. Ones that I've covered, in fact, and done my versions of here on the channel, a bunch of awesome new magic items, and probably what I think is maybe one of the best chapters is just information for dungeon masters. And I feel like some of you may look at what the information when we talk about it here in just a sec and say, well, why? Why does that seem like as important to you as you say it is? And I think, like I've said, and I've echoed this a bunch, it's very useful for newer DMs who don't necessarily feel comfortable, like to you and I, reskinning a monster, knowing a monster that kind of fits the general archetype of what you want, but you don't want to use that monster. You want to use its stat block or something similar and just kind of reskin it to fit the creature you're trying to describe. We could probably do that. We've been in the game for a while, you and I know. But if you're a newer DM, that concept might seem either foreign to you, maybe you don't feel like you're, quote, allowed to do it, which honestly I know, again, to some people may seem silly, but there are a bunch of folks, especially newer folks, who want to follow the book as things are written, and they don't feel comfortable stepping out of that, pre-written comfort zone of what's contained in the monster manual or whatever book you're talking about, unless there's a spot somewhere that Wizards of the Coast says you can go do it. But this is a great resource that kind of walks you through that process. So I will say there is both a PDF and a print-on-demand version available from the DM's Guild. These are also both affiliate links, so if you happen to do pick this up via my affiliate link, I will get a small percentage of that, so you can feel free to do that if you wish. And then again, consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. So let's go ahead and dive into this. Now, I will tell you I'll have to have two links. Lucas gave me a heads up that there was a little bit of like a bug or a glitch or something happened, and essentially the print-on-demand version has its own link separate from the PDF version. Normally when you do this, you get them they're kind of all like just options that you can click through here. Unfortunately, this one, you have the option of either a hardcover premium, a softcover premium, softcover being $27, hardcover being $40, and the PDF being $20. You can also see that there is one 5-star rating here on the print version. But anyway, we can see that again, it came out on the 8th. And if we scroll down, it'll kind of corroborate everything I said. But and you can see there's actually some other folks that have done reviews on this as well. I wanted to throw this out there because I did cover something that Lucas and some of the folks involved had worked on in the past, and that was 12 Christmas Sleighs. I had covered this this product way back when, I don't remember, 2-3 years ago. And I loved this adventure. It was obviously holiday themed. I know there is a review that I did. I think it was in a roundup review possibly. But anyway, so if you recognize some of the names, that's probably why. But the products spoke for themselves. So why don't we go ahead and dive in. First off, as you can see right out the gate, we have Bookmarks, automatic points in the TED department. As I've stated countless times, if you're gonna release a PDF of anything that you're gonna put out there that people can use, whether it be on the DM's Guild or on your own website or what have you, through your Discord server, I don't know, take the time to add in bookmarks to your PDF. Everybody will thank you for it. And that should, in my opinion, be the standard. But it's obviously very noticeable when it's not there. So why don't we go ahead and take a little look at the table of contents, right? So we can see we have player options as chapter 1. We have that Tactician, that new level 1 to 20 class that I mentioned, and then you can see a variety of different subclass options, magic items, and the DM tools chapter at the end. Now, I don't want to go through the Tactician in its entirety. That would probably be the entire video if I were to do that. But I also don't want to completely disincentivize you from picking up a copy of the PDF. But I will talk to you a little high level about what the Tactician is and what sort of role it fills. And then I thought we would go through and take a look at a couple of the subclasses, a couple magic items, and then kind of round out the video talking about the DM tools section at the end. So looking through the subclasses, we'll probably go to the Plague Doctor Artificer, which I thought was pretty interesting because the what it does is useful. I would say it's the best. I'll call it like a passive artificer. I don't know if that really makes sense, but it probably will when we get into it. We'll just stop by quickly with the Path of the Berserker Redux. So this is taking the Frenzied Berserker class, or the Path of the Berserker class that's contained in the player's handbook, and then updating it to be a different version. I've done this again in the past on my channel. Let's see how it stacks up. And then we also have a way of the Sun Soul Redux, the Sun Soul Monk that was originally produced in the Sword Coast Adventures Guide, an update to that. I think this is a pretty handled very well. I think it's very close to what I had done as well. And then we can see we also have a variety of other ones here. We might maybe stop off at, I don't know, maybe the Undead Soul Sorcerer here. And again, like I said, we'll talk about some magic items, and then again, eventually some of the DM tools. So the Tactician is basically, you know, I guess what it says, right? It says it begins with deciding the origin of the character's genius. You are a sort of battlefield commander, although there's different roles you can have. You sort of see the bigger picture. You make the perfect plan. We have seen this in countless pop culture, different things where there's this standing over the war table and you are basically picking out and moving the pieces and coming up with the plan that will ultimately lead to victory. It's also an intelligence-based class, which I do think is important, as intelligence is, with a few exceptions, obviously the Artificer and the Wizard being probably the primary one, basically a dump stat for most folks. Again, I know that's not 100% the case, but there are more races or more classes and things that use charisma and wisdom than there are that use intelligence. So I appreciate that. It is a D8 class. Gets a little bit in the skills, tools, and a couple of options as far as weapons go, light armor. And here you can see the table. And sort of, I will say I do think this is a little front-loaded. It does get quite a bit of stuff at level 1. But again, it is it doesn't get spell casting at all. So keep that in mind. It's kind of I call it more of like the expert style class, so it's kind of roguish in a way, and I think that kind of fits because you can see it has a ton of options as you level up, and rogues often pretty much get something new at almost every level. So you get Perfect Plan, which is sort of your core mechanic, which is kind of similar to a Bardic Inspiration in that you can see you get dice, Perfect Plan dice, and they scale up from 2 all the way to 21 at 20th level. And basically, they are D4s that can choose to be added to things. It says you get these dice after you finish a long rest. You spend 10 minutes coming up with a plan, and you get willing creatures up to 1 plus your intelligence modifier. So again, using the intelligence modifier there. And whenever creatures are part of your perfect plan, whenever they make an attack roll or an ability check, you can use your reaction to basically give them a D4 after the D20 is rolled, but before the DM tells you pass or fail. And then once it's used, it's lost, and you regain all of them when you finish a long rest. And then it says at 7th level, you can also use this ability for saving throws as well. So as someone who's recently just finished a campaign playing a Peace Domain Cleric, very similar to the Emboldening Bond feature, although Emboldening Bond has more frequency, there's often times where you wish you could reactionary give somebody guidance, but I will also, or bless or something of that nature, but I will say that because Perfect Plan is a Perfect Plan dice, it will stack with any of the things we just mentioned. It will stack with bless, guidance, and Emboldening Bond, and it doesn't require concentration of any kind to use it. It's just your reaction to do so. And unfortunately, the creatures that have it, at least the way I read it, can't use their reaction. It has to be on you to make that call. You also get to use your intelligence instead of dex for AC, and you can learn some additional languages. So I guess it's not as front-loaded as I thought. The languages are kind of just a gimme and RP stuff. And then obviously being a sort of war-mindy type person, a tactician, again, as the name suggests, you kind of get the ability to analyze your opponents. That's sort of, and you'll see a lot of these functionalities get altered in the subclasses and things as you continue on. But basically, you're able to take time analyzing a combatant. And then again, if you're incapacitated, you lose that. But basically, you're trying to suss out their weaknesses. And then in turn, you're able to gather that kind of information, possibly where to find weak points to be able to deal extra damage, learn about damage vulnerabilities. Again, similar to some of the stuff that like a Battle Master fighter can do, but in a shorter amount of time. And then again, we can see things as we get expertise, standard ability score improvements. We do this guiding guile ability here at 5th level. I think is kind of powerful because it is a constant use for your reaction, right? Once per turn, when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can call out a command to an allied creature within 60 feet. They can use their reaction to make a weapon attack against the same target. If they're part of your perfect plan, they can expend the dice as part of the same reaction. But I also am realizing now that at least the base class doesn't get 2 attacks. So that sort of is a way it's a very clever and interesting way to offset the singular attack, at least for the base class. I attack an enemy, and then I use my reaction, expending that, which is a powerful resource, we can all agree, to have my ally attack. So I'm essentially getting two attacks, but one's coming from an ally. Obviously, we know that that could have a lot of repercussions if that ally happens to be a paladin or a rogue or something of that nature. But either way, as you go along, again, things continue to increase, and then you have a variety, 4 different subclasses: the Grandmaster, Mentalist, Scholar, and the Warmind. So, like I said, I want to jump ahead now to talk about the Artificer subclass here. We're going to talk about the Plague Doctor. And like I said, I think this is I'm going to zoom in because this is, I'm going to make you guys so you can actually see what we're talking about. I think it's really strong because it's also like very passive in that like it has really solid, useful abilities that you kind of always have access to. But for some folks, this may be perfect for some folks who don't want to dive too much into the craziness. Like the Armor Artificer, for example, I feel like can get a little crazy with the amount of invocations and different things you can do, infusions rather. But anyway, you get proficiency with either Alchemy Tools, the Herbalism Kit, or Poisoner's Kit, fitting for a Plague Doctor. You get some Plague Doctor spells, as all Artificer subclasses do get. Create or destroy water, detect poison or disease, calm emotions, prayer of healing, remove curse, stinking cloud, aura of life, death ward, contagion, and raise dead, all very fitting. And then everything is kind of based around this vapors option here. You get at 3rd level, potent vapors. As a bonus action, you can target a space you can see within 30 feet and choose either harmful vapors or healing vapors. And that's kind of your whole ability, and all of the subclass things that come after it basically just key in on that and allow it to do different things. So you'll be relying heavily on sort of the spellcasting and the base infusions and things of the Artificer, and just having access to this very beneficial bonus action. It also makes me feel, it's reminiscent to me of the original Alchemist from the original Unearthed Arcana, where you were throwing like basically bombs at people. It kind of has a similar vibe. Let's talk about it, right? So target a creature within 30 feet with harmful or healing vapors as a bonus action. Harmful vapors, each creature within 5 feet of that target point must make a con save against your spell save DC or take a D8 necrotic damage. That's not bad. It's early level AoE, but if they do make the Constitution saving throw, they take no damage. Or, alternatively, healing vapors. Expend a first level spell slot, first level or higher spell slot. Each creature within 5 feet of that target point is cured of 1 disease that afflicts it, or has one of the following conditions removed from it: blinded, deafened, paralyzed, poisoned, or stunned. Again, paladins are able to do this with lay on hands, basically. You are allowing them to do this sort of an AoE one, but they do have to expend a spell slot to do so. Again, alternatively, or doing harmful vapors, you have the option. You can only ever do 1 bonus action a turn, so you have to pick which one you want to do. And like I said, the harmful one has the offset of if they save, they take no damage. For flavor at 5th level, you become immune to disease. And then you get empowered vapors at 5th level as well, right? The damage from your harmful vapors goes up by a D8, so it's now doing 2d8 if they fail. And the healing vapors, you now give those people back hit points equal to a D8 plus your intelligence modifier. Again, you are expending a spell slot to cast this. 9, you get Vital Vapors, right? On a failed save, a creature now becomes poisoned by the harmful vapors, and the Healing Vapors, when a creature would be healed to full hit points, any surplus takes them into temporary hit points, which is something that I like, and I sometimes often feel like, I don't know if this should be a base mechanic in the game or a class should have access to this, maybe a feat or a magic item, that any healing above the full hit points becomes temporary, and I like that this is contained here. And then lastly, at 15th level, you get Magnificent Vapors, which I think is really nice. Here at 15th level, now they take half damage if they succeed on the saving throw. And then the Healing Vapors, in addition to the healing options provided by Potent Vapors feature, you can also select from one of the followings. Reduce one creature's exhaustion level by 1, and any reduction to the target's ability scores, or end in effect reducing the target's maximum hit points. Like I said, it's very kind of passive. It's nice things you have. You have a reliable bonus action every turn, and you can choose it to do damage or to help out the team. And again, the damaging one is free, doesn't cost any resources to do so, but until way later on, there's a potential they'll take no damage, which is always a bummer when that happens, but it's because it's an AoE, maybe you can hit a couple of people, or expend a spell slot and heal. And I do appreciate that because it is a D8 plus your intelligence modifier, so at a point it almost kind of rivals base level Cure Wounds, and it has some other supplementary features as well, so I kind of like that. All right, so if we scroll ahead a little bit, we can take a quick look at the path of the Berserker Redux here. So what they did, I thought was interesting, is that Frenzy, it's not a special thing you have to do. You just kind of are frenzied, and your rage damage increases, right? So it says your bonus while raging increases by 2 to a total of +4. It goes up to +5 at 9th level and +6 at 16th level. So you're just dealing extra damage with your rage, and you also have resistance to psychic damage while you're raging. Fearless Rage at 6th level, advantage on saving throws to avoid being frightened. Additionally, while raging, whenever a creature forces you to make a saving throw to resist being frightened, you can use your reaction to move 30 feet closer to them. If this brings you within range, you can make a one weapon attack against that creature as part of your reaction. You make this attack immediately before making the saving throw. If your attack hits, you save automatically, and I like that. It's kind of dealing with the whole the Frenzied Berserker, or the Path of the Berserker, having this sort of resistance. I don't know if they were completely immune to fear effects, I can't remember, or charms, but I like this. You have advantage on the saving throws, and then basically you can use your reaction to move 30 feet closer when they're trying to frighten you, and if you can hit them, you auto-succeed. I like that. Terrifying Presence at 10th level, you gain proficiency in the Intimidation skill. If you already have proficiency in this skill, your proficiency bonus is doubled. Additionally, when you enter a rage, you can choose a number of creatures you can see within 30 feet of you. They must make a wisdom saving throw based off your con mod or become frightened of you until the end of your next turn. If they succeed, they're immune for 24 hours. That's beautiful. I don't remember exactly what I had said when I had done my review, my fix of the Berserker, but that's great. I think it's sort of an initiating when you do a rage. You can put out this big fear effect. I appreciate that. I think that's really good. And then at 14, you get Retaliation. When you take damage from a creature within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to make a melee weapon attack against that creature. Solid. Definitely an interesting choice. Less things to manage. No exhaustion mechanic, which is also nice. And they're sort of kind of offsetting the extra attack that the Frenzied Barbarian would normally have by entering a Frenzied Rage, by just dealing flat out more damage every time with your rage damage, and then the survivability of the resistance to psychic damage. Jumping ahead to the Sun Soul Monk here, we can take a quick look at it. Basically, the Radiant Sunbolt is more or less exactly the same, although it is considered a ranged spell attack. So if you have anything that alters spell attacks, that would adjust it here. Take the attack action, you can make one ranged attack as bonus action, spend a key point to do 2 more. Okay, Searing Wave, now rather than basically having Burning Hands, when you take the attack action on your turn, you can spend 1 key point to replace one of the attacks to make a burst of energy in a 25-foot line, 5 feet wide. They have to make a dex save, taking radiant damage equal to 2 rolls of your martial arts die, plus your wisdom modifier on a fail, half on a success. I like that. It'll get better as you get stronger. Searing Sunburst, they fix kind of the main issue by basically saying you can just use 3 key points to cast a fireball, and it does radiant damage. The spell save DC is your key DC, rather than basically calling it a fireball without actually making it a fireball. And the kind of the big thing that people didn't like about Searing Sunburst is if they succeeded, they took no damage. This kind of just rectifies that, and you are, again, able to upcast it by adding extra key points to this. It says extras for, each extra point you spend up to a maximum of 3 increases the damage roll by one of your martial arts dice. So normally, instead of adding d6s, you're adding your martial arts die, which could potentially at a level 11 is a d8, could be up to a d10. And then lastly, Solar State, your sort of Super Saiyan mode, if you will. Bonus action for 4 key points to enter this state for a minute. Shed bright light for 30 feet, dim for another 30. Get a flying speed equal to your walking speed, resistance to fire and radiant damage. When making a strength or dex check or saving throw, you can add your use your reaction to gain a bonus equal to 1 roll of a martial arts die, and your radiant sunbolt increases to 60 feet in range. I might maybe have it increases to 60 feet. I might say it increases by 30 feet in case you did happen to take like Spell Sniper, because I feel like Spell Sniper works with Radiant Sunbolt doubling the range, therefore allowing you to go even further. And, you know, I think we're going to skip down to the magic items at this point, just to take a look through some of the things we have here. There was, Birdie's Favor. I really like this one, but this is kind of fitting for me, right? So, common magic item, 6 gleaming white alligator teeth dangle from your necklace. Attach a tooth and throw it up to 20 feet. When it's thrown upon the open ground, the terrain is in a 5-foot radius immediately becomes swamp-like, difficult terrain. If the tooth is thrown in terrain that is already swamp-like, it transmutes into an alligator and attacks any creatures hostile to you. An alligator created by this necklace disappears after 1 minute. I love that. That's like right up my alley. I would love to play a druid with this magic item. I think that's awesome. Also, this one, really simple. Bracers of Elvenkind, right? Uncommon, non-attunement. While you wear them, you ignore difficult terrain created by dense foliage, and you have advantage on animal handling and persuasion checks made to deal with woodland creatures. Pretty simple, nice little option there. We have, again, you can see a variety of different items spanning a bunch of different things here. Got a microphone there for bards to use. Eliastrahi's Blessing, which is a great axe. That gives you can cast Freedom of Movement as an action on yourself. And then again, you can have it glow in the moonlight. Fits very fitting for Eliastrahi, the Drow Goddess of Dance. I also like this, right? The Golden Rise Cookie Tin. And we have, there's some interesting ones in here like that as well. And there was one, Liquid Luck, but there was one I wanted to talk about, which was Mithril Mist Armor. I like this because Mithril Mist Armor was a type of armor you could get in earlier editions, and they basically did a really good job of replicating it here. It's medium or heavy armor that's not high, requires attunement. It's basically made of mithril. As such, it does not impose disadvantage on stealth checks, and you can get the following effects. Oh, it doesn't have a strength requirement either. As an action, you can cause your space to fill with billowing silver mist. You are heavily obscured while in the mist, which lasts until the end of your next turn, or you can cast the Gaseous Form spell once until the next dawn. I might make the billowing mist a reaction. I think that kind of makes it a little bit more useful, but either way, you do you. And lastly, let's jump ahead to the Dungeon Master tool section. So probably something that I'm sure every DM has come across. How do we make the owlbear become our friend, right? Creature domestication, right? There's a whole chapter section here about, for the players who want to, they found that tiger in the woods and they want to get it to join the party, right? So the instinct to adopt a pet is a common one. In general, it's a good idea to not let a character domesticate an animal with a CR greater than half their character level rounded down. Such an animal can dominate play, which is true, so keep that in mind, right? If the animal companion, as it were, is too strong, then it will basically make other player characters feel weak, right? So we can continue. Such an animal can dominate play. It's also important to note, while a domesticated creature need not necessarily have the beast type, it should not have a high enough intelligence to be considered sentient. A sentient creature can neither be tamed nor domesticated, which makes sense. It's a free-thinking creature. And should follow the loyalty rules laid out in the DMG. Where you draw the line is based on you. It says initial domestication. When a character encounters a creature and decides what they would like to domesticate, they basically need to develop a relationship, an animal handling check with a DC equal to 10 plus the creature's CR. Certain situations may warrant making the check with advantage, such as feeding them or so on. Likewise, if they're fighting it, it might be with disadvantage. If the check fails, the creature is uninterested in a relationship. They can try it again, but let's see. It flees its earliest opportunity. More aggressive creatures may attack on a roll that fails by 5 or more. Then it's got habituation, right? So you have to basically build sort of habits with this creature so that it knows that you mean that you're not there to hurt it and that you're actually going to have a beneficial thing, right? So if a creature has a habituation time longer than a week, an animal handling check may be made at the end of each week, and we have a little table here. Then we also have some options here for training, right? So one creature, it may spontaneously begin to use its natural abilities to benefit a trainer. A Remoraz may recognize that a humanoid gets cold at night and lie close enough to you to make you warm, while a Tressa may spot an ambush while flying ahead and circle back to warn the party. And then it has a little bit more about how to utilize them in combat here, right? The character has invested time in training the animal to attack or otherwise act in combat. They can use an action or a bonus action to command the creature. An action command is always successful. A bonus action must be accompanied by a wisdom animal handling check, which I do appreciate that, right? If you're going to sacrifice your action to have this creature that you've domesticated fight in combat, that should work. Whereas trying to do it as a bonus action quickly, you have to make a check, right, against the creature's DC. If the command goes against the creature's nature, such as commanding a mimic to drop it, the check is made a disadvantage because the mimics are sticky. That makes sense. Depending on the nature of the creature, it can be targeted during combat as any other creature would be. If pets dying is something you prefer to minimize in your game, you have several options depending on the level of risk and your table are comfortable with, which is also a very good point. You can give the creature death saves just like a player character. You can allow the trainer to spend their reaction to make a medicine check to stabilize the creature, or you can simply rule that pets cannot die and are simply knocked unconscious. And then we also have a little bit here about role-playing pets. Then we have a whole section here, which is also very interesting. I'm going to kind of skip over this because there's a lot to really dive into about intrigue and mystery. And as you know, within a world with magic and players that may or may not be as involved as you are in the intrigue side of things, you really need to do a lot of work to have a mystery happen and then have the players not just circumvent it immediately if you're trying to have the mystery truly feel mysterious. So it talks a lot about, and this is actually really good information here about the kind of questions you should ask, what kind of order you should place clues in, the number of clues, how to do foreshadowing to like kind of, you know, maybe red herrings or not. And then we have a little bit of example clues here, right? And then we have a little bit on negotiation, about resolving conflicts through negotiation as opposed to fighting, which is again something that depending on the DM, they may not be prepared for a player to be like, well, let's talk it out rather than fighting the big bad. Again, more here on negotiation and how to go about it. We have a little bit on generating NPCs with characteristics and things, which is always useful. And there was the next bit. Oh, reskinning monsters, as I mentioned, right? So how do you go about reskinning? We talk a little bit about visual reskinning, right? So it says, say you wish to use a bullet stat block, but the right challenge rating, it's the right challenge rating for your party and its abilities are neat. It has two options that it can use, bite and deadly leap. Furthermore, it has tremor sense and burrow speed. However, perhaps your party is traversing a great plain at the moment and a bullet doesn't fit the aesthetic. Describing the monster differently, you might create a monstrous scale jackrabbit kangaroo hybrid. None of the stats need to change. A creature the size of a small car with a ferociously sharpened canines and long, strong hind legs could just as easily do a bite and deadly jump, and its burrowing speed allows it to create the warrens that it calls its home. While in reskinning a creature visually, identify its signature abilities, what makes it different from other monsters and other versions of it. Then we also have a little bit here about reskinning stats and how to handle challenge rating. A whole section here about shopping and businesses, right? The price, right? A magic item cost, right? We have things about that, which obviously I've lamented a bunch about how difficult that can be. Prices, how often low magic campaigns variance, what the chances to find things, about running a business. This is again a lot of stuff that was contained in the DMG. And then again, traps as stories and encounters, because I do feel like traps are massively lacking in 5e. There's a little bit here and there, but we could use a lot more help to truly expand, make our traps feel more impactful. And there's even some complex traps here, fully spelled out examples here for you to use. And then we have the planar upheaval trap as well. And then I think that covers the entirety of Drizzt's travelogue of everything. So this video was a little bit longer than I had initially planned for it to be, but there's just so much content, right? Now I realize that I've covered things in the past that are 300, 400 pages. This is 93 pages, but there is so much useful stuff packed in there. You can obviously see that the team behind it is very passionate about all of the different things they've thrown in here. And again, I also will remind you that this is Drizzt Travelogue of Everything Volume 1. So if things go well enough, as I'm sure they will, we could get a Drizzt Travelogue of Everything Volume 2. I'd love to see what the folks involved in this were able to do in terms of backgrounds, feats, and races. We obviously saw what they were able to do with a full level 20 class, subclasses, magic items, and general DMing advice. I would love to see their takes on different races, backgrounds, and feats. Maybe even some new equipment that's non-magical, new weapon types, new armor types, non-magical equipment. So anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. As I said at the top of the video description, as well as a pinned comment will be the affiliate links to go ahead and pick this up in either PDF or print format. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.